Hello and welcome to the Pixelated Realms Gamescast, your guide to the digital landscape, untangling the mysteries of your favorite titles. And I'm sick, so my brain is like not working. And discussing the latest and greatest in
video game fun.
Yeah, I'm your host Alex Snow, and alongside me is my brother Tyler and my good friend Dustin.
Hi.
Oh, this is gonna be a rough episode. I'm so sorry.
Okay. It's okay.
I'm like looking at it, and it's just halfway through my brain just wiped. All right. So,
welcome back, everyone.
Welcome to another great episode of the Pixelated Realms Gamescast. We hope that you're all having a great day. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Star Wars, some of our favorite topics to talk about. We have some really cool housekeeping, and we have some good questions, one of which is about Borderlands. So we're gonna be diving into that. First, our housekeeping. We have finally dropped or announced or opened, I don't know, whatever it's called, our Patreon.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever it's called. We published it. We've officially dropped it. So if you go to pixelatedrealms.org/Patreon, it'll take you to our Patreon page. There's not a lot on it right now, admittedly, but we will be posting regular updates and more content as we go along in the future. So if you'd like to show your support in any way, that's a great way. You don't have to pay any money. It's free to join. So it's just a good way to kind of keep up to date with our announcements. And that's going to be mostly our source of truth. So if we're going to be skipping episodes or something in the schedule is changing, we'll most likely post it to our Patreon. So that's where all that information will be found. We may post it to our social media account, but our Patreon is the golden standard. So we really appreciate if everyone goes and checks that out. Then on top, our other housekeeping thing is that Tyler is preparing a video for Star Wars Outlaws.
Yes.
Did you want to talk about that for 2 seconds?
Yes, we're going to be diving into the lore surrounding Star Wars Outlaws. I thought it might be good to do a little video on this because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, and I wanted to know the lore myself, kind of going into it. So just to give us a little couple sentences here to tease it, the game is taking place in 3 BBY to 4 BBY, which is the Battle of Yavin, also known as the destruction of the first Death Star by Luke Skywalker. So this is 3 to 4 years after that, so it takes place between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So a lot actually is happening in between that time frame. A lot of that comes from the comics and other books, some which are canon and some which are not. And it seems like we're mainly going to be in the Outer Rim dealing with the cartels. Now, if you've seen the Clone Wars or Rebels, you probably know a bit about these cartels, but the big players are your Pike Syndicate, the Hutts, of course. We have the Crimson Dawn, which is an interesting case, which we're going to dive into in the video. And then there's actually 2 others. And one of them was invented for the game, and I'm totally blanking on the name. But then there's also this other syndicate family, the something Besh, check out the video for the more details. But either way, I think a lot of this is going to center around at least part of the story is going to get us involved with the hunt for Carbonite Han Solo. So check out our video later when I release it this week, and we'll dive into that some more.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that because I can never get enough Star Wars lore because it changed so frequently recently, and now I feel like I'm behind. So I'm like, okay, what's canon, what's not canon anymore?
And there's a lot of sources, So, and also, just one last teaser into the video. I think we're very likely going to be seeing Kira from the Solo movie. So, I know that might not excite everyone, but I love anything that ties the movies and world together.
Yeah, another cool canon opportunity here in this game. So,
watch
you're a Star Wars fan.
Never got around to it. Heard it wasn't good, just decided never to watch it.
It wasn't my personal favorite Star Wars film, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think people hated on it a little more than it deserved, but it still wasn't great. It wasn't like awful. Like it wasn't as bad as some of the other Star Wars stories that have been told. I was telling people that if it wasn't Han Solo, I think it would have been a really good Star Wars movie. If they had plucked out Han Solo and replaced him with just some generic rogue, and you had seen it through that lens, you would probably been like, hey, you know what? This was actually pretty good. But because Han Solo is Han Solo and he's basically the main character besides Luke, like everybody gave it so much more expectations.
I
feel like my
and
main
just
criticism-
rightfully so.
that story too. You know, everyone was really wanting to see like young Han,
Yeah.
and then so like yeah, the expectations on it were like crazy. But yeah, it should have just been like Jan Blolo instead of Han Solo or something.
I don't know. I just think some of the writing decisions were a little strange for me. Specifically, like how Kira like turns her back on Han so significantly. How like
Spoilers.
the
And it's an old movie now.
well, yeah. How
He'll talk about it in his
another
lore video.
spoiler. Another Han's like mentor, his wife like sacrifices herself for the job, which was like really weird. Like it doesn't seem like money is worth your life.
That's
so
for a
there's
rogue.
just what?
East Coast mentality.
Especially for like a smuggler rogue, right? Like
Right.
you're
It was
selfish.
just kind of a weird choice. And then Han's last name, like it was just questionable writing choices. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, like I get it. I get all of those choices. Could they have been done more elegantly? Most certainly. Like, you know, if we had the Rogue One treatment on that movie, it would have just been like, mwah.
Or like the Andor treatment. Oh my god, that would have been so cool.
It needed to be a little darker. They did try and make it a little too light. Like it was supposed to be kind of like, you know, hey, I'm this rogue that
Right.
no matter what I do, I get out of the situation. You know, like kind of lighthearted in that facet. But like it should have been much darker and grittier and like shown his like the tragedy of his upbringing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyways, so
Anyways.
what have we been up to? What have we been doing? What have you guys
Apparently
been
not
playing?
watching Star Wars movies, Dustin.
I'm always watching Star Wars.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Shame.
Yes.
I played a little bit of Elden Ring again. I don't know. I'm still on those two final bosses, and I just haven't been like super engaged with it this week. So yeah, I haven't played much. Gave it like a couple more attempts. I was like, I got like Melania like really low a few times. So it fucking pisses me off. Like right when you enter stage 2, and like she does like the flower thing and like hits you, and then the flower explodes. And so if you don't dodge the first one, like the whole stage 2 is just over because it basically one shots you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
a little frustrated with that. So I've been taking a little bit of a break from Elden Ring, but
Honestly, taking a
Go
break
on.
is how you beat those bosses.
yeah, yeah.
It's like if you take like a break and then you go back and play it, you're like, oh wow, I actually did pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I downloaded a new monster truck game for Arthur because I used to have one, but it changed. It's weird because on like PlayStation Plus or whatever, it used to be free, and then all of a sudden they like took it off the free and then made it like cost money again. And I was like,
It's like the monthly game maybe because they have that
I
like
don't-
monthly free.
it was there for a while, but I don't know. Like either way, like the game kind of sucked, frankly. And then like Arthur's been like, I want to play, Dad, and I said, okay, let's see. And then it's like $40. I'm like, God no,
Wow.
this game is fucking ripoff. Holy
Dude,
shit!
I'll give you a cheaper games than that. He'll like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I just went through the whole list of games and like found a different monster truck game because he doesn't give
Yeah.
a fuck, you know. He just
Yeah,
wants to
exactly.
drive around
Yeah.
his monster truck in like the free play mode. So yeah, downloaded that. So he's been playing that. Other than that, you know, just like paying attention to what's happening on the internet, you know, and we have our latest game review controversy. So Black Myth Wukong's reviews came out. They only started to come out. They have some weird restriction on full reviews, I think, or there's something along the lines. Like there's some footage that they're telling people they can't show, which like worries me as a gamer because
That's
that just
weird.
screams Cyberpunk 2077 all over again.
Yeah.
Where like they like put a huge clamp on what you're allowed to show because they didn't want to affect pre-orders.
Yeah.
But yeah, reviews have been pretty like all over the place. But the controversy, of course, is that the reviewer from Screen Rant, noted that the game lacked diversity and inclusion in the game. And, you know, it is based on like a
Interesting.
mythical
Yeah, it's
Chinese
mythical.
god. But so of course people like latched onto that. But I read the
course.
review this morning, and so this studio, I guess the thing is like they've got a lot of heat because they've come out and said like we want women playing our game. Women aren't good enough to play
What?
this type of game.
Yeah.
Like they have like a recruitment
What
poster
studio
for
is
the
this?
I don't know, some Chinese
It's like
studio.
a Chinese studio.
That is wild. Why
Well,
why even take the risk of saying something
They
like
had
crazy
so
like that?
even before this happened, right? They had this problem where one of their like lead developers or like would post misogynist posts online, and then some journalist, when interviewing their team, their like HR team, was like asking for comment on that, and they said like no comment, like we have no like we want it, but in a conversation that they were talking about being more transparent in, so it like really doubled down, making them seem like they were trying to avoid it. And so they were like, okay, so a lot of your team is kind of known to be misogynist. You refuse to comment on it, meaning that you refuse to say that it's bad. And then like this happens. So like there's a little context behind
There's also
this.
like
This
a
isn't
recruiting
isolated.
That's
poster,
terrible.
like a really inappropriate like a recruiting poster for the studio where it looks
Wow.
like this guy's like jerking off and stuff. Like it's like
Oh
really
my
so there's all this
gosh.
controversy.
I gotta look this up.
These people sound like they
Yeah,
like. I mean,
like, look
obviously
it
it's a
up.
different country. Like I don't know what their laws are, but dang, like that is very
Yeah.
brazen.
So the thing
Game
is,
Science is the name of the company.
so the
It's-
review itself doesn't say like, oh, we expected more white people, you know.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's
Oh
the,
my God, you're
the
not
re-
even kidding.
no,
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
It's not like literally like it's like a can, but like between his legs it look like implies it's like a a penis.
It's
you
like
can see
it's
the
like
dude's
the most-
balls.
It's just the most toxic like masculine
That's what the
workplace
thing is.
ever.
Suppose it's a very toxic
Like-
anti-woman
Oh my
studio
God.
that's like
Oh my
openly
God.
like open about it. Very open about it.
Well, definitely
the
no one should buy
reviewer-
their game.
Yeah, well, the reviewers said like there's a lot of women in the story that this game is based on, and like it feels like you've
Oh.
purposely left a lot of the women
That's
out
yeah.
of the
That's
story.
fair enough. Okay.
So yeah, it's not saying like, oh, it needs to have more white people or Mexicans or whatever, and it's just saying like, hey, the people that
I
you
see.
base your game off of this story, and now like a bunch of
yeah.
the women in the story you're not even including, which on like a
It's a
face
much
value,
more substantial argument.
yeah,
Oh
on
my
a-
God.
on a face,
I'm
on a-
like looking this stuff up. Like they're not even trying to hide it.
No,
like
they're
this
not.
is
They're
wild.
not.
They're
all.
openly proud about their misogyny and toxicity.
pretty
Yeah.
much. So like, yeah, if that just
Disgusting.
happened on its own, like I don't think people would really care. Oh, like whatever, like maybe it didn't make
Yeah,
sense
yeah.
for how they were telling the story. But when you couple it with the behavior and things the studio has said, it feels like it was
Wow.
on purpose. And that's
Oh,
I
they're
think,
just trying to
where the review is coming
Fan
from.
the flame. Yeah.
But people aren't obviously like taking that into consideration. People are just saying like, "Oh, like this fucking games journalist, here we go again,
Yep.
trying to insert
Once
your
again,
woke
it's this-
politics." Sorry, I hope that doesn't get us flagged.
Oh no,
Uh,
we're
and for
already
sure,
done. Yeah,
for
we're
sure
already
flagged
done.
us.
Yeah.
No more
You also said
monetization
to-
for this.
You also
episode.
said the P word. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know the P word and the W word. Damn it! I was
Yeah.
trying to like not say them on purpose.
For the
Put it in
context, for
box.
those who are listening, if we say anything even remotely political, our
Even-
video gets flagged and we cannot monetize it.
Yeah. Even a tiny
So-
bit. Not that we're making money, but we can't.
None
do
of what
it.
we're talking about is political, but we can't. Yeah, we can't promote it. We can't monetize it. We can't do anything. So if you say the
Sorry,
word
everyone.
like, yeah,
Well, I guess
any
we'll just
like,
test natural views.
yeah,
But yeah, so people are latching onto this again, and trying to make it the next game that like the grifters want to like prop up and like use
Well,
as, like, against like
I was about to
games
say-
journalism.
This crowd of people, this particular crowd of people who love, they're just looking for their next outrage. So, like, it sounds like that journalist actually had a really great point. Like I have to do my own research, of course. I should read it myself, but like, it's just like
Yeah, I think it's
This-
a fair
this-
point.
this
But
is
if-
one of those times though where the studio. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just
I go,
like it's just one of those times where the studio seems so evil and terrible and against like the values we have in our society that like a boycott is justified. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of one of those times where I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't give my money to these assholes. Like they're clearly a bunch of assholes.
yeah. I mean, I that's pretty obvious. But do you think most people buying this game are going to have access to that information and are
No, of
going
course not.
to? Yeah, like, I mean, do you think this is gonna truly affect sales? I'd be curious what you guys think about that, because, like, people like us who are really
I'm not
into
in that
video
business.
games, you know, we find out this information and stuff like that, but most people don't. They just look at the game, they maybe look up a trailer, they say, hey, this is something I would like, and they buy it, right? They don't actually dig into any of the behind the scenes.
I feel like that's a bigger conversation on capitalism as a whole.
Well, I mean, we don't have to like dive so deep
You know
into
what I
it,
mean?
but I'm just
Like
interested
Amazon, you know, like
yeah.
I think that
I-
this is a situation where honestly it could actually help the game sales because there's a lot of people who aren't paying attention to this stuff, but then there's a crowd of people who are like hyper paying attention to it and they're kind of on the wrong side, or at least what I would define as the wrong side. So if you start having some of the big heads and who like
Mhm.
pioneer this fucking dark side of the gaming industry, in my opinion, like it could influence like their followers to be like, I'm gonna support this game because
sure.
the games journalists out there hate it and like the libs hate it, or you know, the woke crowd. So I could see that actually helping because I don't think on the other side of it, like us, there's enough people hearing this who are gonna be like, oh yeah, fuck that game. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
buy that.
Well, I mean, I also think it's super important to recognize, like, and I don't mean this as saying we're right, someone else is wrong. That is not what I mean. But like, not everyone has the same values as us, right? So like, and there's a whole world out there. So like, everyone's going to interpret this in their own way. You know, our current society and the way our current thinking dictates that, you know, this is not acceptable to us, you know. So I'm trying to be open-minded and not pass judgment as a you know, person who lives in
I'm gonna
a country
pass
with certain
judgment.
values.
Because my wife grew up in Guangzhou. She lived there for a long time. I've been to China a bunch of times, and this, in my opinion, like yes, like there are differences in culture, obviously, but I don't think there's like I don't think
It's
that
not an excuse. Yeah,
I don't think the bulk of China is out there saying like it's okay to be a misogynistic piece
right.
of shit.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You
That's the
know.
case as well. Right.
Yeah, for sure, you know. So like, yeah, I mean, I think this company is like living in the past of like what China may have been, but modern China, like the people I've interacted with, the people that my wife interacts with when we go there, and the people she grew up with are not like that. And so I think it's like a dark stain on, you know,
Yeah.
people. Unfortunately, some people might actually look at that and be like, "Oh, that's just China," and like it's totally not. You know, like there's
Mhm.
people that have the same views here in the U.S. about,
Yeah.
you know, that these
Right.
people have.
Oh, yeah.
So
A lot
That's
of
the
them,
thing. It's like-
surprisingly.
Yeah. But I think back to Alex's point is that most people are never going to hear about this anyway, right? So I don't know. I mean, Dustin, you probably know better than anyone how this would positively and negatively sway sales. I wouldn't, but it's like I don't know. It's still interesting to know. I mean, people like us who do follow these things, like, I mean, you know, yeah, sure. Like, I was kind of interested. Now I'm not completely not. So it's
To be honest, I wasn't even planning on playing this game. I mean, it looked beautiful, but I wasn't gonna spend any money on it. I was like, hey, that looks really cool. It looks really fun, and just not like something that I vibed with. So
yeah, and I
it
love the
doesn't really
story
matter.
of Wukong. That it's based off of. I've watched
too.
multiple movies on it, like it's like
Yeah.
old like Chinese movies with my wife on it, and like it's a cool story. And Wukong's like a fucking badass. But
Wukong is such a funny character in Mythos. Like, I studied him a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And he's one of my favorite characters in League of Legends too. No, not to
You know, I
to
didn't
steer
even
it,
put
steer it
two and
back
two
to
together.
it's
video games
definitely
a little bit.
definitely based off of the character.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
an ancient legend. Yeah,
Yeah.
if
Some people are
and
probably like, how
please,
can they do a Wukong character? Isn't that from League? Isn't that copyright? Like, I guarantee you
that's
people.
like it's like
It's
doing
like 1,000 years old.
It's like doing a Zeus character, guys. You can't copyright Wukong. It's like Rashomon, like Indian. Like there's
It's
a lot
beyond
of
copyright law.
It is
Yeah.
beyond. It's like Cain and Abel. You know, like it's beyond copyright.
Yeah, it's considered like a mythological creature, which is not covered by copyright or any of
Yeah.
that stuff. But I think we talked Wukong to death.
Yeah, let's go.
So-
I think we did. I've been playing some games. Alex, do you want to chat? Do you want me to chat about what I've been playing? What do you think?
I can go because I'll go really quick.
Go quick.
My update is not like super fantastic and probably won't like cause a lot of debate. But I mean, sadly, I've been mostly sick this week. I got really bad food poisoning, which is why I'm like so out of it right now, because I'm still recovering from it. But excuse me. That I've been playing Jedi Survivor. Amazing game. Absolutely love that game. Been trying to, I was like a month ago or whatever. I decided to start playing it because Outlaws was coming out, and I was like, I haven't played Survivor yet, and that game is so cool. So I'm probably like halfway through that game. I mean, that game's great. I beat the first one. Love it. Love this one.
Yeah.
Amazing game. Of the first one, yeah. I haven't. Yeah, the second one is good. So if you have, if you love Star Wars games, I don't sleep on this one. Like all the Jedi series is so good. Fallen Order and Survivor, such a good game. I mean, top development. Like I don't know why we don't talk about it more. Like it's just like it's not the most perfect game. It's not the most perfect game, but it is like a 9 out of 10 in my book. If like kind of a scale. Maybe I'll do a full review on it. But
we're talking about Star Wars games today, aren't we? So
yeah, that's true. I'll talk about it more. Let's see. Doing that. I think that's it for me.
Cool. So I've been doing a lot. Per the last couple of weeks, if you've been following us weekly, my brain has been struggling with attaching onto anything lately, so I've been kind of jumping around. But I got a few pieces of news to talk about and have had some successes this week. One thing I want to start with is this game called Stormgate. I don't know if anyone has heard of this. Stormgate is an RTS that just hit early access. I actually played some beta and some alpha gameplay. And RTS is a real-time strategy. For those of you who are unfamiliar, RTS games, the most famous ones would be Command and Conquer, StarCraft, StarCraft 2, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, of course, etc. What's some other ones? Age of Empire is another great example. These are some of the foundational games. I would say StarCraft being the most competitive one that has ever existed. Games I'm really into, I'm not good at in any way because they're incredibly difficult games. If you are interested, I highly recommend you go on YouTube and look up fastest actions per minute StarCraft videos, because you will see these players in Korea, which StarCraft is their national sport, just absolutely amaze you with their ability to do actions per minute in this game. So what is Stormgate and why does it exist? What's going on with that? So Stormgate I've been following for a while because it is a team that is entirely made up of, or almost entirely made up of, former StarCraft, Warcraft, Command and Conquer developers. So even just the top people here on their website, Tim Morton is the production director. He's the former production director of StarCraft 2 and Command and Conquer Generals 2. Tim Campbell, game director and president. He's the former game director of Wastelands 3, another great game, and lead campaign designer to Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne, which is a freaking awesome campaign. So and it just follows suit from there. So these are all RTS professionals who very likely detached from Blizzard after Blizzard's downfall, so to speak. And they basically their objective was to create an RTS game that appealed to a greater number of people due to the difficulty curve. Like I was saying, how many actions you can perform in a minute has a great deal to do with your skill in this game. And it's a very complicated and a high learning curve to learn this game. So they've done a lot of designing features to make it easier for people to approach the game. Additionally, they've created new online systems that allow for the competitive multiplayer of the game online to be smoother. So more units on screen, less lag, jumping back into games if you get disconnected, having spectators. They developed a lot of tools tools that you develop only because you want this game to succeed competitively. And then the factions and units are all kind of like designed in a way that they're supposed to be kind of clear cut what's on screen. It's supposed to be very viewable. So there's kind of, they designed this game to really just, they instead of like creating something new and exciting, they wanted to take what was already done and just perfect it. And so there's been a lot of anticipation. Anyone in the RTS scene has probably seen or heard about this game. Now I want to dive into playing the game and my opinion on the game just a little bit, because we're not doing a full thing today. I think they've achieved their goal in creating a really like accessible RTS. You can jump in and play pretty easily. Like there's a lot of things that are automated for you. So instead of like, I need to remember to tell this unit to go mine ore, it may just automatically do it. Or my hotkeys may all be bound in a nice, convenient way automatically instead of having to do it myself. So all of those things are great, and the game plays great. It all makes sense. But it falls short in a few places that I think are so important that it actually might tank the entire project.
Oh no.
I find the art to be very uninspiring. I find the units to lack no cohesion to the other units, so like artistically. And I think that was an intentional choice because they want people to be able to very easily identify on a screen of dozens of different units one unit from the other. But to me, the artistic result is that nothing looks like it's from the same faction. So like, you know, like a Zerg, every Zerg looks like they're from the Zerg swarm. Every Terran, for the most part, looks like they're from the same society. Every unit in this game looks like it is from a completely different alien race. And like, it just makes me not interested in them as a faction. So I don't know. We'll see. It's in early access right now. I've only played a couple of hours myself, a couple of games. I hope they keep developing it. I hope they're successful in all their endeavors. But yeah, it has mixed reviews right now. So yeah.
Interesting.
But there's a few other games to talk about, but I think we'll probably want to hop on over to our main topic today.
Well, let's ask our questions. Let's respond to our questions.
Oh, I forgot about our questions.
So you can ask us questions or leave us a comment at pixelatedrealms.org/ask. And we'll talk about it in the middle of our show, like right now. So we love when people ask questions. Today we only have one question from the OG gangster himself, Ralph. Thanks for the shout out last week. LOL. Shout out to Dustin for getting the DMX reference. Question: Borderlands. Yikes. With the flop of the Borderlands movie, what do you think this means for the future of Borderlands? Gearbox CEO says they are working on the next game despite... hold on, got cut off. Despite the poor reviews. Do you think this is Borderlands 4? Do you think this is Borderlands 4 or another spin-off like Tiny Tina's Wonderland? There's another question as well. Do you think that this lowers the chance of the next game being successful or as successful as the previous game? So there's a couple questions in here. First, let's address the movie. I don't know. Do you guys have an opinion? I'm a big Borderlands fan. I love Borderlands, but I'm not surprised at all that the movie flopped. Historically, Hollywood does not know how to handle video game movie adaptations. We have recently been having a lot of success in that, but I still don't think that, like, as Hollywood as a whole knows how to handle that. There's like a very specific group, I guess you could say, that now like understands that. And I think this was given to the wrong group, and they did what they do best, and they took all the wrong parts out of Borderlands and they put it in a movie thinking it was going to make a bunch of money, and then it came out like garbage. You know, they had all these huge actors and, you know, actors that I love, and then they gave them parts that they probably shouldn't have had, that didn't maybe match with the character. I never saw the movie, to be honest. I mean, I don't think any of us have. But
I mean no disrespect, but as soon as I saw Chris Rock in a role, I knew it was just like a money grab. Like I knew no effort was gonna. Or not Chris Rock. We can't hear you, Dustin.
Oh, Dustin, your mic's dead.
Oh, Kevin Hart, you mean?
Kevin Hart.
I'm sorry.
I was like,
Chris
Chris
guys.
Rock. I love Chris Rock. I like Kevin Hart too, but
as soon as I saw Kevin Hart, dude,
I like both of them, but.
Personally, like his movies, dude, full respect. Like, I mean, the guy's making way more money than me. I just he doesn't really do serious films. He kind of just does he just kind of signs on to whatever and takes the money, which, you know, like I said, full respect. But, you know, I mean, like the cast was clearly people who were just like A-list actors. And I was like, these aren't people who care. Like maybe one or two of them have even heard of Borderlands. The rest are just going to be people who have never heard of it.
I thought Jamie Lee Curtis was a great pick, but other than that, I was like, because Jamie Lee Curtis likes to do these kind of movies. Like she wanted to be Dr. O'Hara.
Kate Blanchett, you know, do you think she's ever heard of Borderlands?
I mean, she was
I think
great
what happened
in Thor, though, in the Thor movie.
She was amazing.
But that's a totally different role.
Well, what I
bigger
mean
budget.
is, I just don't
I think what happened is her like grandkids or somebody was like, "Oh, I love that game. You should play that." And she's like, or not grandkids, I don't know, whatever. Because that's how she ended up doing Thor. Is like her like grandkids or something ended up wanting her to do it.
She did such a good job. And Taika
I just don't
Waititi's
think
a
it matters
legend.
if they've heard of the IP before. Like, sure, it's nice if they're a fan, but like that's down to the director. Like the director is going to be the one that needs
Yeah,
to,
you're right.
like, I mean, like
I
they're
don't-
actors, like they do a million different roles. Like
Yeah.
if they had to have like deep knowledge of whatever they do beforehand, you know, like
Yeah, and I'm not trying to place blame on every actor. No, it's definitely greater decisions that play into it. I mean, of course, editing, cinematography, staging, like film is inherently something that is just a great deal of artists working on at once.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, I don't think it had anything to do with the actors, but I think the fact that the bunch of A-list actors were chosen was a sign that they were, for this type of movie, was
They
a
were
sign that
focusing,
executives were trying to hide the flaws amongst top tier talent.
Right.
And so, because like Kevin Hart did like Jumanji, which I feel like is probably very much along the same like kind of vibe of this movie, or was trying to be. But it's like, if Borderlands is, in my opinion, is actually a very hard target to hit, because you have to find a balance between the goofy stuff and the like murder. You know what I mean? Because that's why like I think even some of the games in the past have had trouble, is because it's like you're trying to take this like awful dystopian world and then cover it in humor, which
Right.
is difficult
that's
to do.
Fallout
It has
just
to be
did
the
that.
biggest problem was that like
Yeah.
Borderlands. I've never played Borderlands, but that like it
Oh.
can get like very like graphic, and that they tried to make it too mainstream and went away from that too much in the movies. For, like, is what I've heard multiple people say. Like it just didn't
Mhm.
feel Borderlands because they tried to make it like a family movie at the end of the day. You're like, or more.
Yeah, that should have
mass
been
appeal.
an R-rated gore fest kind of a movie, because that's
And
just.
what's funny
Well, I
is
mean,
like
actually,
we've
now that I
seen
think
that
about it, I don't.
success with like Deadpool. You know, like people think like, oh, we need to make it like so everyone
Yeah.
can see it as like a entry point. But like we've seen with Deadpool that like it can be what it's meant to be and still be massively
Yeah.
successful.
Because like, even though the game doesn't have a lot of blood, I think when you transition that into a live action movie, you kind of have to have that to just to depict. Because in the game, like the violence is depicted in other ways, and so, but in a visual or a more real life medium that doesn't have the like goofy cartoony cell shading kind of a thing, you need to show like, no, this is a messed up world, and you need to do that by like decapitating people and seeing blood like spew out of their head. You know what I mean?
I feel like they needed to either go like Mad Max or like cell shading, like Sin City kind of thing. Like, I don't know. It just feels like the artistic direction failed pretty hard on that one.
I don't know. It's hard for us to say because none of us have seen
Because we
it.
haven't seen it.
Yeah, so we're all
the
just kind of
trailer.
talking out our
Yeah.
butt right now.
Yeah.
And I
so I'm
wouldn't
gonna
know the
move on to
difference
the.
anyways. So because
Yeah,
I haven't
I
played the
don't-
game.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next question within this question. Is like, do you think this will affect the games at all? No, I don't think so. I don't
Although
think it
I
has
wish
anything.
it would, because I think Borderlands needs to go to rest, in my opinion.
Well, it's
Don't
like,
you dare.
I'm pretty sure that
I
what's
enjoy
the guy's
the
name?
games.
The CEO
The
is
IP
like
just
Randy
needs to rest,
Pitchford.
man.
Is that
Randy
his name?
Pickford, yeah.
Like he's a
Gearbox.
piece of shit. Like from what I've heard, like
Oh.
he's like a huge piece of shit.
Pitchford.
Pitchford, yeah.
Is he? Jeez.
Yeah, like he's like a not good person either, and like he was attacking a shit ton of journalists after the movie came out, and they were like review bombing it, not review bombing, but you know, giving it bad scores, and he was like started blocking people and like made this whole post about Paul Tassi and was just like, yeah, I don't like this Paul Tassi guy, you know, so I blocked him. It might have been on accident, but you know, I blocked him and then I unblocked him.
Might
but,
have been
you know,
on
I
accident.
might
Trying to be
block him
cool,
again,
okay.
but I unblocked him right now. But I might block him again. Like that was
That
literally
is
his
the
post.
biggest
Like I'm not
cop
even
out.
fucking around. Like he
Oh
kept
my
like
God.
going like
That's so
yeah, I blocked
cringy.
him, but it might have been accident. But I unblocked him
That's
now.
like
but I
Donald
might
Trump
block
level
him
cringe.
later. Yeah, it
Oh,
was like
shit.
fucking insane. And
Shouldn't have
Paul
said
actually
that. We're already-
responded. Paul already responded to it and was just like, okay, like so you
This guy's
unblocked me,
unhinged.
like okay.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want, man.
But the
I don't
Borderlands
think
Studio
this
has a history of like of that guy being like kind of shitty person. So
Yeah. It's kind of it's like one of those things like you either, leave the CEO as the CEO early in your career or you become the villain kind of a thing. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think this will affect Borderlands at all. I think Borderlands has had trouble with the last few games finding its identity again. I mean, Borderlands 2 was kind of like the height of that series, and I think it has a lot left in it. I think it has a lot of juice left.
Yeah.
I think they just need to re-find the soul of the game. And for a long time, they had tried and covered it up with like too much loot. And it's like, you associate looter shooter with the loot, right? But for a while, for like the last like 10 years, Destiny made this mistake too, is for a while both thought that, oh, that means more loot. That means people want more loot. And it's like, no. We don't want to manage all that shit. We don't want to be overcome because then nothing matters anymore. And it's like, I don't want to have to spend an hour going through all the things that I've picked up. And then on top of that, like the story got a little too, like I would dare say,
anticlimactic.
yeah, it was just kind of like, whatever, like it didn't matter. So there was a lot of problems with that, but I don't think this has anything to do with that. I think these movies, adaptions can only benefit. I don't think they can take away from video games because best case scenario, it boosts the game sales. Worst case scenario, people just don't watch the movie, right? Like most people don't associate the movie with the game. Like they're totally distinct as far as like a medium, like as far as the quality goes.
Sure. That makes me think, though, like, I don't know if this is too spoilery for a 20-year-old game, but, like, I'm just reflecting on playing Borderlands 1, right? I mean, this was, like, the first shooter RPG open world. Like, it was, like, there really wasn't any shooters that you would, like, looter shooter, right? It was the kind of the first looter shooter, first-person looter
for
shooter.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, and so we were playing the shit out of it on co-op split screen, I believe, and like we finally got to the end. And I'll just never forget this. I mean, we were so hype on the vault. You're chasing the vault the entire
whole thing
game.
About the vault.
The
Everything,
whole
the vault,
game.
The vault, the vault.
It's all the vault. And so you're at the end, and you have this big Halo scene where you're running from like 1,000 aliens who are attacking you. And we finally get to the vault after blowing through half of them and not killing them. And we defeat the vault boss that pops out. And the game just cuts to an ending.
It just cuts to credits.
It just cuts straight to the ending, and the game ends.
You don't get to see what's inside.
A single piece of loot. You don't get to see what's inside. You don't get to take anything to a new game plus. Nope. That's just the end of the game.
Probably the most disappointing ending of any game ever. And
it was a great game. They just didn't give us any loot at the vault. Like, it was weird. It was so weird.
Yeah. Well,
and then in the next game, they compensated.
Yeah, by overdoing it. But actually, Borderlands 2 was like the best of the
peak,
Borderlands.
Yeah.
But all right, well, let's move on to our main topic. So we want to talk Star Wars. So we have Star Wars Outlaws coming at the end of the month in like 2 weeks or so, and
basically,
so we're gonna kind of reflect on two things. One, Tyler's gonna give us a little teaser about the lore that we need to know before his video drops, and then what's our favorite Star Wars games.
Sure.
So, Ty, you want to start us off? I think.
Yeah. So as I was kind of saying earlier, the lore of Star Wars Outlaws is going to be in between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. It's going to involve a lot of syndicates. So the syndicates we need to keep in mind are the Pike Syndicate, which you can remember from The Mandalorian. They're the Spice Runners. They have like alien faces. I have in my notes, but they're one particular race, but they're a big syndicate. So Pikes are definitely going to be involved. The other one is the Crimson Dawn, and some of you may remember Crimson Dawn was created by Darth Maul back during the Clone Wars, where he basically got the Pike Syndicate and the Black Suns and the Hutts to come together and kind of be like a crime syndicate. But then they ended up breaking up because those type of people can't work together. And eventually Maul is killed by Obi-Wan. So Crimson Dawn is currently led by Kira, who is Han's ex-girlfriend lady. And so, yeah, I hope we're going to get to see like some of her in this, and we're definitely going to get to see some bounty hunters like Boba Fett, and I'm sure a lot of other ones. But yeah, there's more to dive into, but we'll leave it for the video.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's a great little teaser.
Yeah.
Because I didn't actually know when it was. I mean, I knew it was during the original trilogy,
Galactic
but
Civil War, yeah.
yeah, I didn't know exactly when. So that's cool, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so Obi-Wan will be dead, Han will be in Kryptonite, Leia's running around the galaxy trying to basically distract the Empire. Luke is basically doing the same as well as Jedi training.
Training, yeah.
Yeah, and the bounty
You think
hunters are
Grogu will
hunting.
pop up?
No. I don't know where Grogu would be. I guess that's kind of mysterious. Where was Grogu between Order 66 and Mando?
He was, because at what time? So a slight spoiler for the Mandalorian, but at the end of the first season, when he comes and picks him up, what time is that?
That's after Return of the Jedi.
Oh, okay. So so this is So this isn't
Far. It's like
Okay.
not far, but like it's somewhat significantly after. Yeah.
okay. So Mando might be around, but Grogu's not in the picture.
Yeah. Mando's probably like maybe a teenager. Yeah.
Mhm.
Probably. Maybe. Either
Okay.
way. But yeah, so that just got us thinking about Star Wars games. Alex been playing Jedi Survivor. I've been
Heck
playing.
yeah.
I'm always playing Star Wars games.
I wasn't
Like
playing
there's just
anything.
been.
Have you played any Star Wars games? Not one, not even the one he worked on.
The last couple of weeks, no.
No, just I mean in
Oh.
general.
Oh, I mean, I played both Battlefronts. I played the one where you're the Sith, like the kid. The
Where
old
you're
one.
the Sith. You're thinking of
Force Awakens,
Force Awakens.
Yeah, that
no,
show's dope.
Force Unleashed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Unleashed. Yeah.
that was
Force-
super cool. Like way back in the day, I really enjoyed that game. I'd say like the Battlefront games are probably the ones I've played the most. I started playing Jedi Fallen Order, and like I got like I don't know an hour into it. I got past the train, and then I was in like the area where you gotta like walk the tight ropes like right after. And I was like,
Yeah. It's like the
I don't know
intro.
if I want to like commit to this. So I never ended up actually getting around to beating it. I know like it's like got reviewed very, very well in that, but I just,
It had a little bit of a
Didn't
rough
get in.
launch, but it's fixed up.
yeah, so. Yeah,
Okay,
but yeah,
if you
I
had
mean,
like top
anytime.
3, what's number 3, 2, 1?
Me?
Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
go
know,
first.
Those three
Because
I
you only
mentioned,
played
I
like
guess.
4 of them.
Yeah. like, oh, you know what though? Actually, oh my God, the fighter pilot one, not the new one.
Oh,
Squadron?
Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Squadron,
Rogue,
yes,
Rogue
for
Squadron
sure.
on the like GameCube
64
or
or whatever
N64.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's
game, that
definitely
game
my
was really
favorite.
good and didn't get the time that it deserved.
I mean,
Mostly
they tried
because
to remake it with Squadrons to a certain extent. Like, it's not like a one for one, obviously, but like it was definitely like the
That's what I was talking
motivation
about.
behind it.
Yeah.
You know, but
And
I
for
hated
those who may not
Squadrons
know, this
personally.
is Star Wars Rogue Squadron for the GameCube and N64. I believe they ported it to the GameCube.
Well, they rebooted. Oh yeah,
They
and then they came out
redid
with
it or
Squadron,
something.
which was like sort of a.
That was like a couple years ago.
Yeah,
yeah.
that was done by Motive,
That's the one I
but
was talking
yeah.
about. I think that game was like really well done, and I think maybe if they had just, I don't know what it was missing though. I couldn't tell you what it was missing to take it to the next level because it felt really good to play, but it just didn't have like the hook like you wanted to keep playing.
The trouble with that
Well-
game for me was that, like, even I worked on that game. I helped launch that game.
Okay, now we're talking
and,
about like the 2017 game called Star Wars Squadron.
yes, this is the EA
A
game.
different game. Yeah.
The game looks beautiful. The thing is, like, it was actually like created with the idea that like they wanted people, like, it's like a more hardcore flight simulator
It is.
style.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like they kind of
Mhm.
encourage the use of like a flight stick to play the game. You know, so for me, using like a mouse and keyboard, that's like a fucking awful experience. I just could not get it to feel good, and so I just kind of gave up after like an hour. I was like, I don't like it.
Yeah, I would have. So I don't know about top 3, but top for
Yeah.
sure. So speaking of Squadron and Rogue Squadron, like
Uh-huh.
I would have loved to see them take the TIE Fighter game style for that because that game was so good. And the reason
When
one
was
of
the
the
last
reasons
time you played it?
I played it pretty recently. It is a little rough because it's like a 90s game. Thanks, sweetie. But the one of the things that was cool is like you had like you would go and do missions and then you get like medals and you would like have your locker with your medals and stuff like that, and then you'd have like ship proficiencies, and so you could select all these different ships and you'd have like proficiencies and medals associated with them. And
I
it
mean,
was like
they were inspired by those games, right? Like the people who
Yeah.
made Squadrons like loved those games. And these are all 90s games that were like very low poly. Like they were some of the first games I ever played, actually.
yeah.
And you're right, Squadrons was designed with like a lot of flight stick in mind. I've like followed the subreddit a little bit, and you know, it's like full like dogfighting schematics. Like people are really
Yeah, I mean,
really
like,
into the
creative
dogfighting,
director,
and like
said so a bunch of times when I was sitting in interviews with him. He's like, it's made for like flight stick, so that's what they
Yeah.
meant for sure.
Yeah.
I was immediately like, I can't play this then. Like I don't know. I'm like I don't
It's
know where to
surprisingly
learn
hard
about
to
this.
get flight sticks. Like they're expensive, and there's not very many of them anymore. Like you can't. It's like Logitech has a bunch, and there's like some other companies, but it's like they're not like a common thing anymore. It used to be much more common to find them, but anyways, well let's continue and stop talking about just the one. Like what's our favorite Star Wars games?
Super
overall?
underrated.
Okay.
Sorry, Tyler. Super underrated. No one's gonna say this one, but I'm gonna say it. Is the fucking old Episode 1 pod racing game. That game was
That was the one.
I was
Like
gonna
the first one I was
about
gonna
to
say.
that was one of my favorite ones.
Really? Okay. I thought it was like a hidden, like a forgotten gem because I love
Hell no, that
fucking
game is
dude.
like that's like
That's
number
one of the best
one.
racing games for the N64 ever.
Yeah, the pod
So,
racing game
okay.
is amazing.
Unlocking
I'll
some
throw out-
bulbas with the fire that shoots out the side. Hell yeah.
I'll throw out 3, but even though there's way more than that because I'm like a Star Wars game fanatic. Okay, number 1. No particular order, but I'll say number 1, Knights of the Old Republic. It is the greatest Star Wars RPG currently in existence. Okay. Number 2, I will give to Star Wars Pod Racers because that is just my favorite game, and it fulfilled like such a dream when I was a kid, and I just wanted to like pod race, and it gave such a great like you can upgrade your pods, like you have
It
all
was so
this
cool going
huge
to the
cast of
junkyard
characters,
and like finding like really great pieces in the junkyard for less
And you
money.
could-
Yeah.
yeah, you could buy them from the junkyard. Yeah, like literally, it was just so you could buy extra repair droids, those little little droids. So it was just like such a good approximation of what pod racing was
Yeah,
about.
that's probably
They
my
actually
favorite
never
Star
beat
Wars
it.
game, honestly.
Yeah.
Like Rogue Squadron is right there, but like that one's so good.
Okay, and I'll give number 3 to Star Wars Battlefront Classic, that we call it now, because that game just like completely changed like gaming. Like that third person like Dynasty Warriors-esque thing was just completely game changing and led to so many hours of multiplayer and fun and just like understanding the Clone Wars and the Galactic, like it was just the ultimate experience. So if you want to brush up on some Star Wars games, I would definitely recommend those 3.
What about the Old Republic? Just like the MMO. Did you ever play it?
I'm currently playing it. I really enjoy it. It's just a hard game to like put on the top of my list.
It's also like
it
really
feels
dated now.
its age.
Yeah, it's very dated. I bought it, so
Yeah.
I was like into this girl who I was playing WoW with at the time. And she was like, I love Old Republic. And I went and bought it. And we actually never got around to playing it together.
Oh
and I
my
was like, oh
gosh.
my God, I bought this fucking game for nothing. So,
It's a cool
but
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe if I find the disc somewhere in my storage, I'll fucking install it.
That's hilarious.
Well, you don't need that anymore. What
Yeah,
do
you don't
you
need
have
the
a
disc.
disk drive?
No, actually, I don't. So, well, maybe I'll have the code. I like through my
It's like,
computer.
you have
I was
a
like,
disk
actually,
drive?
no, I don't have one of those.
Yeah.
I think that the game is free now with like a
It is,
battle
it
pass or
is.
something.
No,
So-
it's
okay.
free. It's
It's like
you
it's
could
like
pay
over
for
10 years
like
old.
experience posts. Yeah.
I'm gonna file
No
a
one
credit
plays
card
it
claim then
anymore.
because I bought this game. I want my money back.
Yeah.
Hey, I like I said, I'm playing right now. You get your own ship, you get your own house on different planets. There's like tons of expansions. It's a very cool MMO.
Yeah, I think it is time though to start over. We need a new Star Wars MMO that's modern and beautiful.
It definitely
could
needs
give
a
it-
new engine. Yeah.
Yeah, like that game, it feels old. It feels like they're doing the bare minimum in it, you know. And so it's like I can't really give it time. But I would
think
say
people
like
are
I
just
agree with
scared
everything.
of it. You know, doing another MMO like because of WoW. Like and
They're
there's
not
Guild
going to do it, I
Wars.
promise you.
There's there's just a couple, especially WoW, that have the stranglehold where they're like, how much money can we actually make from this game? Because
Yeah.
will the MMO crowd migrate over to this?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
MMOs are expensive to make because
Yeah,
it
so
just
it's like a
requires
huge
such
financial burden.
yeah, because you basically can't work on anything else when you're like your main team when you're working on an MMO because it's like the upkeep to keep this like everything moving and running and content dripping and everything. It
Yeah, I
just
mean, if
takes
you
so
think
much
about
time
like
and
the
money.
sheer size of the map, and then like all the fucking quests, the NPCs that need to be created, like just the copy that needs to be written. I mean, like just I'm just thinking of like WoW right now, just base WoW, and how much content there was in that game, and it's like Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah, just a
Yeah.
huge team.
I think right now the Old Republic strategy is just to they are still adding things. I mean, they're really impressive at like they've had a impressive pace for years. And they continue to release like expansions and stuff. But yeah, they're just trying to hold on to the people who are enjoying the game. They're not, they're
Yeah.
just
You
trying to
just
maintain.
remaster the Old Republic into like modern graphics.
No, it needs a new. So okay,
Yeah,
WoW
when you
did
if
that,
we
like, 5
downloaded the
years
game
ago.
right now, I know, but they probably don't have the money to do that. It's a really solid game, but it plays like WoW Classic, like it does, like
yeah.
yeah.
Even if they upgraded the models, the game mechanics are still feel old. Like they would need to basically like remaster the whole thing within the engine.
Which
That's
is
just
what
really
WoW
tough.
did, right? They
Yeah,
had to like
exactly.
in WoW they had to rewrite their engine or something like it was crazy, like what they had to do in WoW.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna give off my list, and I think it's very close to your guys's. So like in no particular order, right? Like I would say Pod Racers, Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, classic Star Wars Battlefront 2, and one that is not on the list that has been said yet, but one of my absolutely like favorite, and I would kill for a reboot or remaster of this game is Shadows of the Empire, which was the
Oh,
N64
yeah.
game where you played as I think his name was like Rendar.
No,
Rendar. Oh, I should have looked at this beforehand. But you play as like this.
no.
Yeah.
Give me a second.
Anyways, but that game is so good. You literally fight against IG-88. Against Boba Fett, you are in the Battle of Hoth. You like the whole game is just so much fun. I mean, it is an N64 game. It probably doesn't hold up anymore, but I would love to see that come back. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah. And since we've been talking about it now, I remembered more
And Dark
games I've
Forces.
played. Pod Racers, Rogue Squadron, the new Star Wars Battlefront 2 would be my 3.
Why can't I? It's dark.
It's Shadows of the Empire. Let me see. I'm looking it up.
Shit, I looked
Dash
up
Rendar. That's his name.
Dash Rendar. Yeah,
Right.
and he's in the comics too. The whole bunch.
Yeah. So I mean, it's based off of the book of the same name.
Yeah.
But loosely, but which I think also takes place during the Bounty Hunter Wars, by the way. So
Ooh,
put that little. Maybe we'll see Dash Rendar come back in Outlaws. I'm not holding my breath, but that would be pretty cool. Do you guys have any more Star Wars
Actually,
games?
You're right. Well, now I'm interested. Now you got me on this. Oh, he
Look at
does
Alex
deal with
with
the
his
Black Suns.
Look at that, Alex coming
It's
in.
funny because as I've been doing research for this video, I keep finding more and more and more in like random little places, like little things. I was like, oh, that also kind of could play into it.
I know.
So-
Here's the thing about Star Wars lore. Like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have a Star Wars tattoo. I'll probably get more Star Wars tattoos. But the thing is, like, Star Wars nerds will come up and be like, "Well, let me test your lore," and I'm like, I'm not gonna know everything.
I love that.
I know a lot. I don't know. I know like 1% of Star Wars because it's just so vast and so complicated, and there's so many books and there's so many little things. Like, it's just like I'll never know everything.
As someone who has read a good chunk of the things, like I just can't remember everything. Like it's just
That too.
impossible. So
That
I don't
too. They'll be like,
really
what was the
try.
name? What was the name of the moon in this system on this planet? And you're like, I don't fucking know, man. Like,
Although, okay, we'll end the episode with this. I learned something that is crazy. That is super crazy. So, Leia Organa, of course, we all know Leia Organa. Where do you think she gets her last name from?
Senator Organa,
First name?
her stepfather. Oh, her
Bail
first
Organa.
name.
Bail Organa, her father. You
Yeah.
would be wrong. Her mother, Bria Organa, is the queen of Naboo or queen of Alderaan, and her Bail Prestor married her to become the king of Alderaan.
He took her name.
Yep.
Cool.
So Leia Organa is actually the matriarchal maiden name in Alderaanian society, which I thought was very interesting.
I like that little lore drop, and I think that's a good
Yeah.
place for us to close her up. So thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to be notified when we post new episodes. We post new episodes every Tuesday morning on podcast services and YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube, and Patreon now at Pixelated Realms Podcast or just Pixelated Realms. Thank you very much.